If there were a greatest hits portion of the Torah, it would be this week's Parsha, which is actually a double portion, Achremot Kedoshim. Right in the middle of Leviticus, we get a welcome respite from the descriptions of animal sacrifice and skin disease and issues of ritual purity and impurity. This week, we get the good stuff, the stuff that makes us glad to be Jews. Leave the corners of your field for the poor and vulnerable, we are told. Don't cheat or steal or gossip. Revere your parents and rise before the aged. Don't insult the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. Be faithful to your spouse. Remember to keep Shabbat. And perhaps the most famous commandments of all, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and you shall love the stranger as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. If all we had from the Torah was Parshat Kedoshim, Dayenu, it would be enough for us to have a pretty clear image of the kind of community the Torah envisions for the Jewish people. It sounds like a pretty nice place to live. This community is one where justice, equality, and basic decency are the highest values. There are limits put on the powerful in order to protect the vulnerable. There are consequences when individuals transgress the law, and a shared understanding that everyone must play by the same rules. But lest we think that this society is one based only on justice or judgment, we have our two climactic mitzvot. Love your neighbor as yourself, and love the stranger as yourself. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs writes, "These are extraordinary commands. Many civilizations contain variants of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Or in the negative form attributed to Hillel, sometimes called the silver rule, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. But, he continues, these are rules of reciprocity, not love. We observe them because bad things will happen to us if we don't. They are the basic ground rules of life in a group. Love is something altogether different and more demanding. That makes these two commandments a revolution in the moral life. The sages have long grappled with how to understand these revolutionary mitzvot. How can human beings be commanded to love? Isn't it human nature to love ourselves most of all? Is it even possible to love someone else as we love ourselves? There are numerous explanations and arguments about what it means to love our neighbors. But the one that makes the most sense to me is from an 18th century scholar named Naftali Herz Wiesel. He writes, "The word kamocha, like you, is not usually used adverbally, but rather adjectivally, meaning similar to you. Here the meaning is, love thy neighbor who is kamocha, as thyself, like you, created in the image of God, a human being like yourself." In other words, the verse doesn't mean love your neighbor like the way you love yourself. It means love your neighbor because he is like you. Similarly, we are commanded to love the stranger because he is, in fact, just like us. This interpretation means that we aren't expected to love others as much as we love ourselves, or even as much as we love our families or closest friends. So it's not quite as high a bar as we might have thought, but it certainly isn't easy. What does loving our neighbor look like? Loving our neighbor means that our obligations go further than merely refraining from abusing or harming others. Loving our neighbors means seeing others, even the stranger, as our equals, equally created in God's image and equally beloved by God. It means feeling connected to them, recognizing that we are all part of God's creation, diverse and yet interconnected. And it means, at the very least, to care for others, to see and pay attention to them, to care about what's going on in their lives, to want good things for them. we love our neighbors, we won't turn a blind eye to their suffering, and we'll act in ways that promote their well-being. The capacity to love is one of the traits that makes us B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. As God created the world and created human beings out of love, so are we called to extend that love in ever-widening circles. We begin with ourselves and then extend it to our families, to our neighbors, to those we don't even know, and ultimately to the whole of creation. In so doing, we create the society imagined by the Torah, the world of our dreams. Shabbat Shalom.